It's really important to think about accountability and test scores in the current climate in the country and really in the world. And as an administrator, that's something that you are charged with. You have no choice but to constantly be thinking about your test scores. But it's a mistake to think that doing the same things over and over and over in the same way will raise your test scores. And the brain-targeted teaching model really helps children to master content. And despite the emphasis on arts integration and despite talking about the classroom environment, it would be easy to think that when you focus on those things that you're not focusing on accountability and on the outcomes and indicators that are going to be tested on the standardized test. But that's absolutely not true. They completely support each other. A child who is not comfortable will not learn the content. A child who is not in a welcoming physical environment, a child who is anxious is not going to be able to master the content. And giving a child the same content over and over in the same way is not going to help them master the content. So the research says, and my own experience also says, that if you want children to do well on standardized tests, then you will present the material in the way that they're going to best learn it. And doing it in a comfortable environment, giving them repeated rehearsals, integrating the arts, doing all of the things that the brain-targeted teaching model emphasizes is the way to get them to master that content.
In Brain Target 4, the model requires multiple repetitions of multiple practices of the same concept. And I've incorporated movement much more into my classroom to help children solidify their learning. And for instance, we were doing geometry and trying to distinguish between a square and a rhombus. And I knew that the students I was working with had never heard the word angle before, and so we were talking about corners and trying to distinguish between acute angles and obtuse angles and right angles without using that terminology, but I did want them to learn what a right angle was. And so my room's set up sort of in small tables with a center area that's open, and I asked each child to take some time and think about how they could use their bodies to make a right angle after they'd seen it pictured on the board. And they each got to come to the center of the room and show different ways. And some students were very timid and would just make an L with their hand or a T with both hands, but some of them were very expressive and got on the ground and put their legs up in the air or sat up really straight to make a right angle with their legs and their torso. And they were so excited to see all the different ways that you could make a right angle, and they cheered for one another. And so there again, you know, I was doing Brain Target 4, but the emotional climate was there, and that sense of community, of building a safe area to express yourself and to show your learning. And they were, I think it was so effective because even the next day I had a student teacher going on to another lesson, but she had to make sure they really understood what a right angle was. And when she did, they automatically held up their right angles. It was just spontaneous. So I knew it had stuck. And this was with a group of kids that doesn't always happen quickly. But I think it shows the power of the model and of encouraging teachers to break out of the traditional worksheets or choose the right answer. And it encourages the children to create their own conceptual understanding.